2019, if they want to be considered a real threat in the NL. But they are obviously going to win. Not obviously, they are the clear favorite to win this division. Their rotation is crazy. They're 1, 2, 3. Burns, Woodruff, Peralta, all all-star pitchers last year. Burns, easily the second best pitcher in baseball. Had the second best FIP with a 1.63 FIP last year. Second best in a single season since 1950. Only guy higher was Pedro Martinez. His bullpen is nasty. Josh Hader with 54 scoreless outings out of 60 last year. Devin Williams with his incredible airbender changeup, who had an insane 2020 season where he only had 1 earned run in 27 innings as a rookie. This bullpen also very deep. Guys like Brent Suter, Brad Boxberger, lefty Aaron Ashby, who was very good last year. And I think the key for them to win the division is, along with Yelich returning to MVP form, is Burns and Woodruff just need to perform like they have.
I think they are definitely going to take home this crown. I think they made slight improvements, not anything that was really over the top. Renfroe is good. McCutchen is good. Those are good depth pieces to add. It really makes the lineup a little more flexible. They got solid protection for the other bats in Renfroe and McCutchen. And as you said, the pitching is what's going to hold this team together. That's what happened last year. I actually picked them to go to the World Series towards the end of the year because I was just so blown away with that pitching and that three-headed monster with Corbin Burns, Brandon Woodruff, and Freddie Peralta, as you said, Andrew. And the bullpen, it's lights out. It's always been really good. And you just got to hope as a Brewers fan and as the organization that pitching can stay consistent, because if that pitching is not going to stay consistent, then there might be some trouble in Milwaukee.
Next up, we have the Cardinals, who finished second place last year. They had Steven Matz, who was a very good addition to the rotation, especially with Jack Flaherty out for the start of the year with a shoulder injury. Platoon option and Corey Dickerson. And then obviously they brought back one of the best players in their franchise history, Pujols. Then they did lose some depth pieces, which is bad. John Lester, Jay Happ, some great innings eaters, and then also Carlos Martinez, Kwon Yang Kim, which leaves the rotation pretty low at the end of it, with some guys who aren't very experienced, like Jordan Hicks, Dakota Hudson, Miles Mikolas. And the offense, I think, is really what's going to hold this team back. They ranked 20th last year. Really only guys that you can really rely on to have good years will be Arenado, Goldschmidt, Tyler O'Neill, Tommy Edman. And the bullpen is about league average. So I'd say it was not a great offseason for the Cardinals, but I do think they'll be around the same team as last year.
Yeah, I got to agree with you there, Andrew. I think this team will be very similar as they were last year. Steven Matz, he was good for the Blue Jays last year. I don't know if it's going to be enough, or I don't know if he will be enough to step up in the place of Jack Flaherty for the time that he's going to miss, because they specifically brought Matz in to be behind Flaherty, and now that's not going to be the case right from the start. Dickerson, I like. He's always been a really solid player. It's not a huge addition, but it is an addition. And then obviously Pujols, he's going to go out with Yachty and Wainwright, as it should be. Should be a very fun season for the Cardinals and their fans, regardless of how they end up, just because of the trio that has brought this franchise so much success in the last 20, 25 years. They get to ride out in the sunset together, which is fun. It'll be fun to watch. This team, I don't think they will end up making the cut for the playoffs. I think they just miss out this year.
Yeah, I actually agree. So next up, we have the Cubs, who really didn't do anything prior to the 2021 season, and then decided to go all out and get a bunch of players. Drew Smyly, starting pitcher, Michael Givens, closer, Chris Martin, David Robertson for the bullpen. They were one of the suitors for Carlos Correa, but did not end up getting him. So they settled for Anderson Simmons, much different offensively, but a better defensive shortstop. And then they also had the Japanese phenom, Seiya Suzuki, who had over 1,000 OPS last year. And that's going to be really fun to watch him play. Clint Frazier, who's finally gotten over all his concussion stuff. So who knows? Maybe he finally breaks out and becomes the player that we once thought he was going to be as top prospect with the Indians. They added Wade Miley and Marcus Stroman. So I think it's much better rotation than it was last year, with guys like Albert Alzolay being one of the top relievers, top pitchers in this rotation. So the Cubs, they had a great offseason, I'd say. And there's a lot of question marks with this lineup. Guys like Frank Schwindel, Patrick Wisdom, who burst on the scene last year, we don't know how good they're going to be in a bigger sample size.
I'm going to disagree just a little bit, Andrew. I don't think it was a great offseason. I think it was a good offseason. This team is not going to be a playoff team. These moves are going to make them a 500 team, I think, maybe a little bit over. I'm definitely excited about Suzuki. He looked really good in Japan. It should definitely be very fun to watch in Chicago. Stroman was the big one. You know, with that rotation, he's going to be a big focal point. There's not really much else, though, with this rotation. Wade Miley is very similar to Alec Mills and Kyle Hendricks in that regard. No disrespect, but they don't throw 95 miles an hour. They're all control guys, it's fine. You know, it works. But this team, they weren't. If they got Correa, yeah, they'd be a little better. They'd be much better, actually. But that I didn't really think that was going to happen from the beginning. This team is kind of in a retool, you could say, not necessarily a rebuild, because they do have solid options to build around. So I would call it a retool, but definitely a lot of things to be excited if you're a Cubs fan. But I would keep them around 500, maybe below, maybe a little bit higher this year.
Yeah, I'd definitely say it was a retool that in the middle of a rebuild. And the bullpen's definitely going to be what holds the team back from making the playoffs. So next up, we're going to talk about the Reds, who pretty much sold their whole team. Just Bob Castellini decided we're going to blow the whole team up, gets rid of Shogo, Amir Garrett, Wade Miley, Sonny Gray, Jesse Winker, Eugenio Suarez, Nick Castellanos. So there's three of their top hitters, Winker, Suarez, Castellanos. So their offense is way worse than it was last year. Rotation is still pretty good once Castillo comes back with Tyler Mahle, and then they have top prospects such as Hunter Green, Nick Lodolo, who should be pretty good for them this year. But the bullpen doesn't really have any real closer this year. The only guys you can really rely on that in that bullpen is Santillan, Hunter Strickland, Luis Sessa. So it's not going to be a great year for the Reds, but I think they should have really stuck with their core, kept these players, seen if they could have made a run, but they decided to just blow it all up.
Yeah, I do feel bad for Reds fans because this team was very fun to watch, especially with Castellanos and Winker. A lot of production, and even Suarez too. A lot of production was lost in this offseason, and it brings the question: why are they doing this? Why they lose all those guys, but they keep Moustakas, they kept Votto, they kept Castillo. I don't really know what the Reds are doing, to be honest with you. They were definitely a playoff contender. They were a playoff team in 2020. They were definitely a contender last year, but the front office is just making me question. You're keeping certain guys but letting other guys go. Why don't you just either keep them all or just tear it all down? If you're going to tear it down, just tear it all down. But that's not the case. There are definitely some very very good things to look out for with the Reds. Jonathan India, I want to see how he does in his second season after winning the National League Rookie of the Year in 2021. Should be very fun. It was very exciting to watch. Hopefully you get some good production out of Moustakas, barring that he does not get injured as he was last year. But I don't really expect too much from the Reds this year. It's kind of a similar situation to the Cubs, a little more puzzling, but I would call this a retool.
Yeah, definitely. That's what it is. A little retool, but also just completely blowing the team up. The final team we're going to talk about here is the Pirates. Not really much to say about the Pirates. probably going to be over 100 loss team this year. They added Jose Quintana, Daniel Vogelbach. We're probably going to get both flipped the deadline. They did extend Ke'Bryan Hayes, which was a very good move for them. 8 years, $70 million. Definitely want to keep that guy around. Possible for pace the franchise. The Pirates, they're not really ever going to be contending in this league if they're not going to go on and spend money. If their owner just keeps having them at $40 million payroll, unless you have smart guys in your front office like the Rays do, you're not really going to compete.
Yeah, the Pirates, I really don't expect too much. I do really like that they extended Ke'Bryan Hayes, though, bought out all of his arbitration years and a little bit of some free agency years, but that was probably the best thing that they could have done. Maybe even extending Brian Reynolds, but that didn't happen. Definitely have pieces to build around in Reynolds and Hayes, but it's gonna have to wait. It's gonna have to wait. Like you said, Andrew, they were never going to be good this year. Just have to wait and see what the Pirates do. I don't really expect anything out of this team this year other than be really, really bad.
Yeah,
really bad. So
the rotation is guys, JT Brubaker, Mitch Keller leading it. There's really no strength to this team. The bullpen's bad, the lineup's bad, rotation.
A lot of young guys though. A lot of young guys that could be really good, like Mitch Keller and a pitching prospect Quinn Priester. They got some solid arms that could end up being solid options for them down the road. But 2022, that's our focus right now. Just it's not going to be good. It's not going to be good.
Definitely not. So now we're going to move on to our standings, and I'm going to reveal mine as we did for the NL East, and then Will say his. So I have the Brewers at 93 and 70, the Cardinals at 86 and 76, the Cubs at 78 and 84, and the Reds at 72 and 90. And then the Pirates at 58 wins.
I have the Brewers winning the division, taking it home again at 91 and 71. I got the Cardinals coming just short. It's going to be another good race between these two teams as it was last year. I have the Cardinals at 89 and 73. In third, I have the Cubs at 80 and 82. The Reds, I have them in fourth at 79 and 83. And the Pirates, I'll show them a little more love. I have them in last at 66 and 96. So not quite a 100-loss team, but still not good regardless. So that's going to wrap up our Central talk. We're going to finish the National League here with one of the best teams in the entire league in the National League West. We're going to start right off with the Los Angeles Dodgers to kick off our